and it's actually timely. Timely, as this week's parsha is Matan Torah, so really anything can be timely when you discuss Torah. But one of the critical ingredients of Matan Torah was Hachanah leMatan Torah. Hachanah. They prepared for Matan Torah. So we'd like to discuss for a few moments Hachanah, preparing on Shabbos. Now, Hachanah is a massive sugya. It gets a little bit more airtime before a Yontif. A little more airtime before a Yontif because on a Yontif, when you have 2 days, we have a 3-dayer coming up on Pesach. Everything gets a little bit more stressful and emotional in some households as they have to have the food ready at the right times, especially Pesach with Sidarim. Emotions and stress levels are very high already, which perhaps inappropriately, because the Poskim speak about if you're preparing, if you're cleaning in a manner which is just going to cause stress, but it's not a halachic cleaning, maybe it's not the right thing to do. But as they say, we'll get there, Mir Tasha. But for now, let's talk about Hachanah. So we're going to give a little bit of Akdama. I want to focus on. Can you just give me something from the fridge? Thank you. I'm going to focus on one area of Hachanah. I don't know if it's. And then we're going to continue. The Shaila, I'll tell you the Shaila that was inserted. I don't know if we're going to get to the Shaila today. That's what I wanted to, God bless you. That's what I wanted to mention. The Shaila that was inserted probably happens in every single household in Klal Yisrael, every single Shabbos, which is you finish the Suda, you clean up. Where do you put the dishes? On the counter, in the sink, in the dishwasher. And now the kitchen's a mess. Am I allowed to clean up the kitchen? Am I not allowed to clean up the kitchen? What exactly is the story? So, as a first cousin to that Shaila, I want to talk about washing the dishes, particularly on Friday night. That's what I want to focus on, and hopefully in a few moments this will become perfectly clear. Before we get there, everyone wants to know, we said that this thing called Hachanah, preparing on Shabbos, what exactly is the Isser of Hachanah? What is Isser of Hachanah, preparing on Shabbos? So, always when you learn Hilchos Shabbos, the first question, really all halacha, is it an Isser Daraisa or is it an Isser Darabanan? Which one is it? What does the Ilam suggest? So everyone suggests it's Darabanan, which you write in your suggestion. One day you'll learn Masechah Shabbos and it'll be bothered that Rashi on Daf Kuf Yudalef seems to suggest it's a Daraisa, but Roiv Paiskim do take on it's a Darabanan, and they say the pasuk that is quoted is an Asmachta Ba'alma. Is an Asmachta Ba'alma. What exactly does that mean? Let's leave it at that. This is primarily, there's many Mekaymis in Shulchan Aruch where these halachas exist, but in Shin Chav Gimel and Sivav, that's really in Archaim. That's the main place. It's also in Tafrei Shad Aleph, but let's leave it. Why is it Aser? So now we know it's a Derabanan. Why is the Derabanan Aser? So in Hilchos Shabbos, if ever you don't know what's your best, if you want to hedge your bets, what do you go for? If you don't know why something's Aser, okay, obviously you're cooking, it's Bishul. What? Why is it Aser? Oh, Tircha. If you ever don't know, go for Tircha. It's a safe bet. If it's not Tircha, go for Kaisif. Little bit of a hit. Kaisif. Kaisif, which Sheikh is Kaisif, writing. What does that have to do with anything? Kaisif might have the most Derabanans on Shabbos. We're not getting involved in that right now. So, Atus. Okay. No, Muksa is, that wasn't a fair question. Muksa is not an Av. Muksa is the Derabanan. We're talking about the Av. We're talking about the Malach Ali. But either way, the Pashas is it's Tircha, and as we mentioned, I think last week, when we spoke about feeding animals, we said Tircha on Shabbos does not mean what me and you would find as Tircha, that we're sweating, that we're excessive work. It's not what Tircha means. Tircha means what Chazal dictated is Tircha. And over here, Chazal dictated, and this we can understand, and this is really Lashon of Rashi, Asr misham Shavuos lekatarach mishabes lochol. It's Tircha, you don't need to do it. And that's what the Aruch HaShulchan says. It's a davar muvan me'elav. It's understood by itself. Shas la'triach shom tircha b'Shabbos l'tzarechol. What are you doing at Shabbos? What are you doing for the weekday? And by the way, that question, the way the Aruch HaShulchan just said it, that really will be the first starting block in the halacha of Hachanah. And the reason why halacha of Hachanah is so difficult, as we're seeing right now, is there's no malacha you're doing. Anything could be Hachanah. I just poured myself a drink. That could be Hachanah, theoretically. If I'm sitting there on Shabbos Shabbos and I'm thinking, you know what, tonight I'm going to be really thirsty. And you know what, let me prepare myself a drink. I don't like seltzer. I like flat seltzer. Flat black cherry seltzer is the best. So I figured, let's pour it now. Let's pour it now and I'll have it for tonight. That could be Hachanah. Now, maybe it won't be, but why could that be Hachanah? Because what am I doing? I'm doing something now for after Shabbos. That's the question number one you're always going to have to ask yourself in the world of Hachanah. So, that definition as well should tell you, if you're washing the dishes Friday night, are you allowed to wash the dishes Friday night? So there's a Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amid Aleph, says the Gemara in Shabbos, Madichin, you're allowed to wash. Actually, I started Shab other Taner Rabbanan. That's fascinating that I'm looking at two different pages.
Are you using the dishes tomorrow?
Interesting. Taner Rabbanan, Kairos, Nachavdav, you'll take care of that. Kairos Sha'achal, plates that you ate from, Mehen Arvis, Madichan Lachol Mehen Shacharis, which is an important line. Which really is, it goes in the definition. Today, I'm sorry, it's going to be a little bit boring for many of you. It's going to be Akdama today, but we're going to build. That which you ate from Friday night, are you allowed to wash for Shabbos morning? The answer is yes. Shacharis, you allowed to wash for the afternoon? The answer is yes. The afternoon, can you wash for Mincha? The answer is yes. From Mincha ve'elach shov einay meidiach. You can't wash anymore. Why? So Rashi, being the good Rebbe that he is, explains, De'ein hadacha zu elo l'chol. Why are you washing it? It's for the weekday. But the Gemara concludes with a cryptic statement. Aval kaisais vikitoinios, cups and other types of cups, usluchios, madiach v'eichel nekolayim. You're allowed to wash forever. Lefi she'ein keva lishtiya. There's no end to drinking. So what do we see from this Gemara? We see, first of all, mistake number one everyone makes. I'm washing dishes Friday night for Shabbos morning. That's mutter. I'm washing dishes Shabbos morning for Shabbos Shabbos. That's mutter. And this is a halacha we actually spoke about when we learned Muksa. Whenever you're doing something for Shabbos, we view the whole Shabbos as one block of time and it's mutter. Parenthetically, I mentioned, Yontif, it's not true. This is the mistake everyone makes. Yontif, for the first night, for the second night. No, that's a separate day, and therefore that is aser. That is aser. But Shabbos, that would be the heter. Just a little bit of a fun fact. We said that the reason is because of tircha, but the Rambam, as often, Rambam sometimes has interesting explanations, which is part of the reason why, if you just learn Rambam, you might end up with interesting pshatim. The Rambam comes along, he says, you know what, it's aser? Kimisakin. Interesting. It's like a tikkun mana. You're fixing something. Now, what exactly? That's why Hachanah is also. On this Gemara, why you're not allowed to wash the plates, says the Rambam, it's mitakin. It's fixing. Very interesting. What exactly does that mean? We'll leave it. The Ravid comes along screaming as he always does, and he says, you missed the boat, and it is because of tircha. It is because of tircha. So, where should we go from here? We'll go straight to the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch comes along, and the Shulchan Aruch says that with the halacha we just said, you're allowed to wash things for the daytime, but you're not allowed to wash after Shala Shabbos. You're not allowed to wash after Shala Shabbos. So what's the one halacha we learned? You're allowed to wash for Shabbos. You're not allowed to wash for during the weekday. So now, what I would like to end off with is the following shayla. Following two ideas. We're not going to, maybe we'll start answering them. I don't know if we're going to get all the way to the end of the answer. The following two ideas. Number one idea. So you're not allowed to wash things. What about if you're not sure? What about if you're not sure? Not sure. Meaning, Friday night, you hosted a big party. You had 20 guests. Plates, cups, the whole 9 yards. Shabbos morning, who's going to be there? You and your wife. Are you allowed to wash everything Friday night? So the obvious, the simple answer is what? Shkafa Rishayna, thank you, is what?
No, he's not using all 20.
Very good, because I'm using all 20. Could anyone suggest potentially a reason why it would be allowed? No, so that's again. You're going on a side, and you're going on a sidebar heter, which you might be right. Which we're going to get to. I said we have to talk about that. I want to know what I say.
I can use any
Very good. Within the lumdus of it.
Once you already washed two.
One.
Then you're going to use those two that you already washed. But you're not going to use.
Do you know you're going to use those two?
No, maybe not. I feel like I have like some. Yeah, once they're clean, yeah.
So now, very good. So here we have a fascinating Mishnah Berurah. I said we're going to talk about washing the dishes Friday night, but this is the first part of it. We have a fascinating Mishnah Berurah where the Gemara said that you're allowed to wash cups and whatnot. She'ein keva lishtiyah. You're allowed to do whatever you want. And then the really question is, what exactly is going on over here? So what you're both right. Ironically, you thought you were arguing. You both were right. The Mishnah Berurah says in Sifkatan Chavches, Im bar lo ishalo yishteh, you're not going to drink. It's usher. So if it's bar, you're not going to use this plate. It's usher. But what did the Mishnah Berurah also just say? That the world of Hachanah, the Mishnah Berurah just gave us a beautiful definition. It's called innocent until proven guilty. If it's a bar that you're not going to use it, then it's forbidden. If it's not a bar, you're not going to use it. Do the words of the Mishnah Berurah apply? No. Why not? What is the definition of Hachanah? The taich, the words themselves mean, as we saw in the Gemara, as we saw in the Shulchan Aruch, meant you're doing something for tomorrow. If I'm doing something that might be for tomorrow, but might be for today, is that called doing it for tomorrow? Does that go into the Webster's dictionary of being mechin, preparing from today until tomorrow? The answer is no. Because I didn't just prepare for today to tomorrow. I prepared maybe for today, maybe for tomorrow. So Mishnah Berurah is clearly teaching us. What's wrong?
Back in the case, how does that?
So very good, very good. So now, very good. If I take my 20 plates and I wash 2 of them, and you and the Rebbetzin are a wonderful team, and you wash 2 of them, whoever's the washer, whoever's the dryer, and the dryer dries them and goes and puts them on the table. So now it's game over. Because now if you go watch that third play, what do you watch that third play for? You're done. It's a borrower. It's not for Shabbos. But what happens? Slow. But what happens if I go and I wash 20 plates and they're all sitting on my counter and they're all stacked up and they're drying, and then Shabbos morning I go and I choose 2 plates. Which 2 plates am I going to use Shabbos morning? I have no clue and you have no clue. So every single plate, if I wanted to label it Hachanah, that's forbidden. It's forbidden to put that label on. It's mutter to wash it because there's no label of Hachanah. Now, you have to be careful with what I just said. If you take this too far, slow. But let's say Friday night you had soup, Shabbos morning not having soup. So I didn't just say you could go wash everything. If you're going to use some of the plates, great. But now, are you having soup? Maybe no. I use my soup for chalent. If you do, is there such a thing as harama that you could do it once? We're not getting involved right now. Perhaps that would be okay, because lamaisa you did use it. 1 second. But if you're washing something that you're bevadei not going to use, that would be an issue. Again, I answered your question one more time. I understand your questions. It's not that I know I have enough. Can I ask you a better question? Why are you washing it all? I have more in the cabinet. Who said you're allowed to wash? It's the same answer. The Mishnah Berurah taught us a definition. If I am washing something that I'm not going to use bivadai, that's forbidden. On every item that I am doing, you cannot say, I am not going to use bivadai. Now, if you end up doing that, you're right, it's an issue. You ended up washing all of them, and then you went to the cabinet and you set the table, okay, then you're stam, that's called a stupid avera, because you didn't have to do it. I don't want to get involved in that. Lamafreya, how to view it. Let's not get involved in there. But Lamaisa, it's a big machlek achrayim how to view Lamafreya. But Lamaisa, in case anyone was that's Mishnah Berurah. The Shmir Shabbos Kal Chasa, as always, comes along, and he says what we just said. Ubesafek im litzayir Shabbos mutter. Kotam Makar Chaim, who's really that same Mishnah Berurah that we spoke about, etc. So heter number 1 that you need to know when it comes to Hachanah is that Hachanah is only if you're bevadai doing it for during the week. If you're doing it, then it might be for Shabbos, it might be for during the week. It's not labeled as Hachanah. Now, I didn't just save the world. Certain items we saved and certain items we didn't save. But this is going to be step number 1. Now, and I'm going to leave open, and everyone's wondering, why didn't I just say you're allowed to wash them to clean up the counter? The house is a mess. That's going to be a heter that we're going to get to. That heter is very undefined, and I'm going to leave this off with everyone's mind to be open a little bit. Mishmur says if I have a bed in the middle of my room, kidarkai, as they had, and the bed is a mess, it's a bizoyin for Shabbos, and you're allowed to make it. Okay, fine. What level? Meaning, I have 2 dishes on the counter. It's a bizayin to Shabbos. I mean, maybe for you, yeah. Maybe for me, no. Are you being honest by saying it's a bizayin? What's that? These are all difficult questions. It's very not clear. Now, we'll all agree that maybe you're in a little apartment and you have one counter, and the counter is stacked up to the moon with plates, and let's say even better than just plates, and there's food hanging off them because people are animals, and crusty, and there's flies. Someplace can write, if there's flies, it's going to attract the bugs, it's a problem. Fine, yeah, he has Shalom Friday night. It's okay, listen. Yeah. So that's why that heter is not so glatt. And that's the reason why if we could find other ways of helping us without reverting to that heter, that's going to be avenue number 1. Merchant, tomorrow we'll pick up, and number 2 we have to discuss is silverware. We have to discuss the cutlery. The cutlery becomes a big issue. I'm actually going to leave this as a question. I know I keep saying I'll leave it off, but this is so much fun. If you wash your cutlery Friday night, so what do? You wash all the cutlery, forks, knives, spoons, great. And what do? They're all sitting in a pile on the counter drying. Now you say, okay, I want to set the table. Uh-oh, you have a big buyer monster on your counter. You can't set the table now. So tomorrow you set it before the meal, but your wife wants to go to shul and you want to do this. What is the answer? The answer to that question is going to be tomorrow, how to wash the cutlery.